Have you ever been made to feel completely worthless by someone who was supposed to lead you? Have you ever been told you don't matter, right before proving you matter more than anyone could have imagined? That's exactly what happened to me in a company meeting that was supposed to be routine. Instead, it became the day my boss publicly called me disposable, minutes before the executives announced I'd be leading the entire department. This is the story of how one cruel word, one moment of humiliation, became the sweetest vindication of my career. My name is Jordan, and I need to tell you about the meeting that changed everything. I've been in tech for 8 years. Started as a junior developer fresh out of college, worked my way up through pure determination and skill. I'm not the loudest person in the room. I don't play office politics. I don't schmooze with executives or take credit for other people's work. I just do my job exceptionally well. My boss, Richard, was the opposite. All charisma, all networking, all self-promotion. He'd been with the company for 15 years, knew everyone, golfed with the VP, had that corporate ladder climbing down to a science. And he was decent at his actual job, I'll give him that. But more than half his success came from the team he managed. Our team. My work especially. For 3 years, I worked under Richard. And for 3 years, I watched him take credit for projects I led, ideas I developed, solutions I created. In meetings with upper management, he'd present my work as his own. I came up with this approach. I solved that problem. I built this system. And I let him. Because that's what you do when you're trying to be a team player, right? You don't make waves. You trust that good work speaks for itself. You believe that eventually, people will see your contributions. Except they don't. Not when someone else is loudly claiming them. 6 months ago, our company won a massive contract. A Fortune 100 client, multimillion-dollar deal, transformational project that would define our company's future. It was the kind of opportunity that makes careers. The executives formed a task force to handle it. They needed someone to lead the technical development. Someone who could manage the complexity, interface with the client, deliver results under pressure. It was the most important role in the company, reporting directly to the C-suite. Richard positioned himself as the obvious choice. He started having lunches with executives, sending strategic emails, making himself visible. He told our team he was a shoo-in for the position. Told us how he'd restructure everything once he got the role. Told us which of us would be on his team and which wouldn't make the cut. What Richard didn't know was that I'd been having conversations of my own. Not with executives. With the client. 3 months earlier, during the contract negotiations, the client had asked to meet with the technical team. Richard brought me along as his technical expert, to answer the detailed questions he couldn't. I spent 4 hours in that meeting, walking through architectures, explaining approaches, solving problems in real time. The client was impressed. Very impressed. So impressed that they asked if I could be their primary point of contact for technical matters. Richard agreed immediately, thinking it would free him up for strategic work, while I did the grunt work of implementation details. What he didn't realize was that I wasn't just answering technical questions. I was building a relationship. Demonstrating expertise. Showing leadership. The client started CCing me on emails, asking for my input on decisions, requesting me specifically for calls. And I delivered. Every single time. I solved problems before they became issues. I anticipated needs. I communicated clearly. I built trust. The client started telling our executives how impressed they were with me. How I was the best technical lead they'd worked with. How confident they felt with me on the project. I didn't know any of this. I was just doing my job. The meeting was scheduled for a Monday morning. All hands for Strategic Projects Division. Mandatory attendance. The agenda just said, important announcements regarding the Fortune 100 contract. Richard was practically glowing that morning. He wore his most expensive suit, his power tie, his Rolex. He spent 20 minutes before the meeting doing what he called pre-gaming, working the room, shaking hands, making sure everyone saw him. I wore my normal work clothes. Sat in the back. Reviewed project notes on my laptop. The meeting started with the usual corporate pleasantries. VP of Operations welcomed everyone. Talked about the importance of the contract. How it represented a new chapter for the company. How they'd carefully considered who should lead this critical initiative. Richard was literally on the edge of his seat. Then the VP said something that made the room shift. Before we announce the leadership decision, I want to address something that's been brought to my attention. There's been some concern about taking credit for team accomplishments. Richard's smile faltered slightly. In this company, we value integrity. We value people who do the work, not just people who talk about the work. And we especially value people who build relationships with our clients based on genuine expertise and trust. I looked up from my laptop. This wasn't the speech I'd expected. That said, we've made our decision on who will lead the Fortune 100 project. But first, I'd like to hear from Richard, since he's been quite vocal about his interest in the position. Richard, can you tell us about the technical architecture you proposed for the client's integration needs? Richard stood up confidently. Started talking. Using lots of buzzwords. Making broad statements. Sounding good if you didn't actually understand the technical details. The VP let him talk for 2 minutes, then interrupted. Can you explain the specific approach to handling their legacy system compatibility issues? Richard hesitated. Well, we'll use standard integration protocols and... Which protocols specifically? The ones appropriate for their systems. He didn't know. He couldn't answer. Because he hadn't been on the calls. Hadn't done the analysis. Hadn't built the solution. I had. The VP looked at me. Jordan, would you like to answer that question? Every head in the room turned. I could feel 50 pairs of eyes on me. Their legacy systems run on a modified version of AS/400 with custom middleware, I said, standing up slowly. Standard REST APIs won't work because of their authentication protocols. We designed a hybrid approach using message queuing with a translation layer that preserves their security requirements while allowing real-time data flow. The client signed off on the architecture 2 weeks ago. Silence. The VP nodded. And the scalability concerns they raised about handling peak transaction loads? We proposed a distributed caching system with intelligent load balancing. Ran simulations showing we can handle 3 times their projected peak with room for growth. The client CTO called it the most elegant solution they'd seen. The VP smiled. Not a polite smile. A knowing smile. Thank you, Jordan. You can sit down. Actually, no. Stay standing. My heart was pounding. Richard's face had gone from confident to confused to pale. Richard, the VP continued, how many calls have you been on with the client in the last 3 months? Several. I'd have to check my calendar. I can tell you. 2. Both introductory calls. Meanwhile, Jordan has been on 47 calls, 17 in-person meetings, and has exchanged over 300 emails with the client team. The client CTO specifically requested Jordan by name to lead the technical implementation. The room was dead silent. But that's not why we're having this conversation, the VP said, and his tone got harder. We're having it because of what happened in last week's executive briefing. Richard, you presented a comprehensive technical roadmap to the C-suite. You called it your vision for the project. Your strategic approach. Your innovative solution. Richard was sweating now. Except it wasn't yours, was it? It was Jordan's. Every slide, every diagram, every solution in that presentation, Jordan created them. Jordan designed them. Jordan can defend every technical decision in that document because Jordan made every technical decision in that document. The VP pulled out a sheet of paper. This morning before this meeting, I had a conversation with the client's CTO. I asked him directly, if he had to choose one person from our company to lead this project, who would it be? He looked at Richard. Want to guess what he said? Richard couldn't speak. He said, and I quote, "Is this even a question? Jordan is the only person on your team who actually understands our needs and has the technical and leadership skills to deliver. If Jordan isn't leading this, we need to reconsider the contract." My breath caught. The client said that? About me? The VP turned to me. Jordan, I understand you didn't apply for the leadership position. Didn't lobby for it. Didn't even know you were being considered. Is that correct? Yes, sir, I managed to say. That's because you were too busy actually doing the work. Building the relationships. Earning the trust. solving the problems. He looked around the room. This is what real leadership looks like. Not politics. Not self-promotion. Not taking credit for other people's work. Results. Expertise. Integrity. He walked over to where I was standing. Extended his hand. Congratulations, Jordan. You're the new Director of Strategic Technical Operations. You'll be leading the Fortune 100 project and reporting directly to me. Your team will be anyone you choose to work with. Your salary is being adjusted to match the role. And Richard. He turned back to my former boss. Richard, you're being reassigned to a project management role in operations. You'll report to Jordan now. The room erupted in whispers. Richard looked like he might throw up. But the VP wasn't done. Before Jordan accepts this position, though, I think there's something that needs to be addressed. Richard, you've made some comments about Jordan over the past few months. Comments that several team members have reported to HR. Would you like to share with everyone what you said about Jordan in last Tuesday's team meeting? Richard shook his head mutely. One of my colleagues, Sarah, stood up. He said Jordan was disposable. That anyone could do Jordan's job. That Jordan was just a code monkey with no leadership potential. Another colleague, Mike, added, he told us that Jordan wasn't executive material. That Jordan didn't have the presence or charisma to work with clients. The VP looked at me. Jordan, the client CTO told me you're the most professional, communicative, and technically brilliant person he's worked with in 20 years. He's specifically asking for you to present at their board meeting next month. So much for not being executive material. He turned back to Richard. This is what happens when you underestimate people. When you take credit for their work. When you mistake quiet competence for weakness. He addressed the room. Let this be a lesson to everyone here. Real talent doesn't need to shout. Real leaders don't need to tear others down. And in this company, we recognize and reward the people who actually do the work. The VP shook my hand again. Jordan, do you accept the position? I looked at Richard. His face was a mixture of shock, humiliation, and rage. Part of me felt bad for him. Part of me remembered every idea he'd stolen, every meeting where he'd taken credit, every condescending comment. Yes, I said firmly. I accept. The room broke into applause. Actual applause. My colleagues were standing up, clapping. Some were smiling at me. Others were looking at Richard with expressions ranging from pity to satisfaction. Richard walked out. Just stood up and left the room. No congratulations. No acknowledgement. Nothing. The rest of the meeting was a blur. Details about the transition. Timeline for my takeover. Introductions to executives I'd be working with. Throughout it all, I kept expecting to wake up. For this to be some elaborate dream. After the meeting, colleagues I barely knew came up to congratulate me. To tell me they'd watched Richard take credit for my work and were glad it was finally being recognized. To say they'd love to work on my team. Sarah pulled me aside. You have no idea how long we've been waiting for this. Richard's been doing this for years. To you, to others. HR had a file full of complaints, but never had enough to act on. Until the client started specifically praising you. That's when the executives started paying attention. Mike added, when Richard called you disposable last week, 3 of us filed formal complaints. We were done watching him abuse the best person on our team. I had no idea people had been noticing. No idea they cared. I'd felt so alone, so invisible, and all along there were people who saw what was happening. The transition took 2 weeks. I assembled my team, everyone I'd worked with who valued collaboration over politics. Richard was reassigned to a project in a different division. We interacted exactly twice during the transition, both times purely professional, both times painful. My first month as director was intense. Long hours, steep learning curve, massive responsibility. But the client was happy. My team was motivated. And I was actually excited to come to work. 3 months in, I presented to the client's board of directors. Walked them through our progress, our solutions, our timeline. Answered every technical and strategic question they threw at me. At the end, their CEO pulled me aside. When we signed this contract, we were taking a risk. But watching you lead this project, seeing the expertise and integrity you bring, this is exactly the partnership we hoped for. You're going to have a long and successful career, Jordan. That's when it truly hit me. I'd made it. Not through politics or self-promotion, but through actual competence and genuine relationships. The way it's supposed to work, but so rarely does. Last month, Richard left the company. I heard through the grapevine that he'd been passed over for several positions because references from our company were lukewarm. Word had gotten out about the credit taking. About the disposable comment. Reputations in this industry are everything, and his was damaged beyond repair. I don't celebrate that. I don't take pleasure in his downfall. But I do recognize that actions have consequences. That you can't build a career on other people's work forever. That eventually, the truth catches up. Here's what I learned from all this. When someone calls you disposable, when someone takes credit for your work, when someone tries to make you feel small, they're not seeing you clearly. They're revealing themselves. Their insecurity. Their lack of real substance. Their need to diminish others to feel important. Don't shrink to make people like that comfortable. Don't stay quiet to keep the peace. Don't let them steal your accomplishments. Document your work. Build direct relationships. Let your results speak loudly even when you speak softly. And most importantly, trust that good work eventually gets recognized. It might not be immediate. It might take longer than it should. But people who consistently deliver value, who build genuine relationships, who lead with integrity, those people rise. Not always in dramatic meetings like mine, but they rise. If you're in a situation where you feel undervalued, where someone above you is taking credit for your work, where you're being told you're disposable, please hear this: you're not. Your work matters. Your contributions matter. And there are people who will recognize that, even if your current boss doesn't. Start building relationships outside your immediate chain of command. Let your work reach people who can advocate for you. Document everything you do. And when the opportunity comes, because it will come, be ready to speak up about what you've accomplished. So if this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt disposable, if you're currently dealing with a boss who takes credit for your work, I want you to do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Every week I share stories about workplace dynamics, career advancement, and standing up for yourself professionally. Real experiences from real people who've navigated toxic work environments. Second, leave a comment. Have you ever been called disposable? Have you had a boss take credit for your work? Are you currently being undervalued? Your story matters. Someone else needs to hear they're not alone. Third, share this video with someone who's being underestimated at work. Someone whose contributions aren't being recognized. Someone who needs to know that their value isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. And if you need resources on documenting your work, building professional relationships, or dealing with credit-stealing bosses, I've linked articles and tools in the description below. Remember this: you are not disposable. Your work has value. Your expertise matters. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve to lead you. Keep doing excellent work. Keep building relationships. Keep having integrity. The recognition will come. And when it does, it'll be based on real merit, not empty self-promotion. See you in the next video. And until then, know your worth, document your wins, and never let anyone convince you that you're anything less than essential. You're not disposable. You're indispensable. And eventually, everyone will see it.